Okay, so we are on to the final subject, and it's called the balance scorecard. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will be really, really excited to learn that this doesn't actually include any math. It's pretty much all theoretical. So, before we actually dive into this, let me just pull up a scenario because I like to draw on my screen for you guys. So, let's say you're at a meeting. Again, you're always at a meeting with this one CEO, and you're sitting here and then your CEO is sitting over here, and this guy sitting across from you, and he kind of is just like, I don't know, he's kind of out there, kind of weird. Um, so your CEO asks you, he said, okay, are we doing any better than we did last year? And the guy across from you says, yes, we as a company are doing a lot better than we were last year. And so your CEO says, okay, that's awesome. How so? And that weird guy just kind of doesn't really know. He also has no idea how you're doing better. So this is obviously an absurd scenario. How can you know that you're doing better as a company if you don't have, any way to tell you that you're doing better? So that is kind of where this balanced scorecard comes into play. So all the balanced scorecard does is gives you four main parts of a business: the financial aspect of a business, the customer aspect of a business, the internal process aspect of a business, and the learning and growth aspect of a business. And it basically makes you write out a list of goals for how to check to make sure that you're doing better as a business. So, um, to do this, let's start with financial, because financial is easy to understand. We all know what financial means. So the financial aspect of a business basically refers to um, the how the income statements look at the end of the year, or the cash flows, net income, costs, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to focus on that because I feel like you all relatively know it intuitively at this point. So first, you want to list out a strategy for that section of the business, or in other words, a goal. So how will the company improve in this aspect? So in the financial aspect, a good strategy that I always like is increased net income. Because if you're increasing your net income, then you're increasing your revenue, or you're decreasing your costs, or you're doing both at the same time. So that's a good strategy. So you're at this board meeting now, and he asks you, okay, how did we improve? And your dude says, we increased net income. And that sounds awesome. But then your CEO will then, okay, so that's the strategy. But after that, your CEO will go, okay, great. And he'll say, how much did we increase net income? And your guy may say, we increased it by 10 cents. So if you increased your net income by 10 cents, would you actually consider yourself as meeting that goal of increasing net income, or would you not? Because technically you increased your net income, yes, but did you really do it enough to matter? That's iffy. So that's where the measure or the metric comes in handy. So you list out your strategy or your goal. Now you need to put an actual number to that goal to make sure that you really hit it. So in this portion I wrote in my cheat sheet, use numbers to quantify if you've reached your goal or not. So an example could be increase your net income by $10,000. And then you also, along with adding a number or a percent to quantify that goal, you want to add a time frame. So increase your net income by $10,000, and let's say since last period. So now you know exactly how much you need to increase your net income by, and you need to know how much you need to increase it by from when. So always include a number or a percent and a time frame. And the rationale is basically just the explanation. I don't think you're going to need to know this for the exam, personally, but the rationale basically is just asking you to explain, why did you choose this strategy? Why did you choose this metric? You could say net income encapsulates both the cost and the revenue, and we increased it by $10,000 because we're valued at $1 million, so that is whatever percent, blah blah blah. Again, I don't really think you're gonna have that on your exam, but it might come up. So the customer aspect of a business basically deals with, as it sounds, just how are you and your customers working out. Um, some good strategies or goals for the customer section is increase your number of customers, new customers, increase customer retention rate, um, increase your customers' perception of the business, all that stuff. So some measures could be, increase them by 3,000 customers, um, increase the average length of customers that order from you by 3 years. And for the customer perception of the business, you could say increase your Google reviews by 0.3 stars, or maybe have a 0.4 star review on Yelp, something like that. The internal process aspect of a business deals with basically everything Tom related. So how efficient, how lean, how Tom are you? Internal process, minimize waste, increase innovation, environmental issues, all that kind of stuff. And your learning and growth deals with your employees. So if customer deals with everybody outside of your business, learning and growth deals with everybody inside of it. So how happy are they? How educated are they? Did they take a training course yet? What's their retention rate? So some good examples are like those retention rate and stuff. But one thing I want to note on is learning and growth oftentimes does include education. So a good goal may be increased number of employees who took a training course, and your measure would be, have 10,000 training courses administered and completed by employees within 4 months, something like that. But yeah, that's learning and growth. So on the exam, I'm not going to go through a review problem with you guys because I honestly don't know if there are any review problems to really go over. And I don't really like, yeah. So I'm not going to go over a review problem. This is a relatively simple concept. You just need to kind of like look through your material, talk about this with friends, even Google it online because this is online to better understand it. But on the exam, what I'm expecting it to look like is they may or may not give you the parts of a business and then give you different strategies. And you may have to like fill them into which part they are and write out a good metric for it. So just understand the parts well, understand where strategies would go for each part, and good metrics for the parts. Now, one more thing about this, one little thing, is that you may notice that they say lag and lead. So what this basically means is that how it basically is asking you, can you affect these different parts of a business in real time? So the only lag measure is a financial measure, is a financial part of a business. And that lag basically means that every year or every period, you're going to get your income statements in, and it's going to tell you all about your financials. So at the end of the period, you're going to see all the cash you made, all the cash you got rid of, what you did well, what you didn't financially, all that stuff. However, you can't really have a perfect idea of if you're hitting. So you can, by the way, at the end of the period, you can easily tell if you hit your goal or not, net income, blah, 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 all that other stuff. But throughout the period, you don't really have a full idea of what's going on because you can't just take a snapshot of all your finances every single second of the day. You really need to wait for those income statements out. You need to wait for you to pull all the information in at the end of the period for you to be able to see if you actually achieved your goals or not. So that is why financial is considered a lag, is because there's a lag between the time you see how you're performing and in real time if you can affect it. Now, customer internal process and learning and growth are all considered lead measures. And you can think about lead measures almost as like the speedometer of a car, as Professor Block explained it to me. Let's say you're driving down the highway and you see that the speed limit is 55 miles per hour. Now, you may be terrified of cops because you're on a notoriously bad highway or something like that. So you look at your speedometer and see that you're going 60 miles an hour. You can, in real time, slow down your car in order to match that goal of 55 miles per hour because you can watch your speedometer change as you go through. So it's the same thing. So that would be considered a lead, is because you can, in real time, change it to get the results and the goals you want. So for customer, let's use our example of customer reviews on Yelp. You can, every second of the day, go onto Yelp and see what the reviews for your company are, and you can see if you're hitting your goal or not. And the same for the other ones. You can pretty easily see if you train the amount of employees for that month and so on. So again, all of these parts of a business are considered lead because you can in real time see and change them to achieve your goals. Whereas financial is considered a lag because you really have to wait for the income statements in order to see how you're doing and therefore try to improve what you're doing. So that is the balance scorecard. Again, I'm not going to go over an example of this. Just try to really understand it. The different parts. You can go online, look through the materials. You can even use this cheat sheet as a resource. But yeah, so that's again, it should be a relatively easy part of the exam, but just make sure you really know it by the time the exam comes. And so far, if you have done the budgeting, the um, scorecard, and target costing, then that is all there should be on the exam. Again, I really recommend that you do all of the problems listed in that module that I showed you. And if you do all of those, then you should be in really good shape. But yeah, again, just know your cheat sheet really, really well, know the concepts well, be able to do the concepts before you're able to do the problems. And I guarantee that you're going to nail this last exam. So with that, good luck on the final exam. And it was a pleasure working through all of this with you guys. And I hope to see you next semester.